My phone screen lit up at exactly 8 o'clock the next morning. It was Cynthia, my mother-in-law. I did not expect an apology, but the sheer audacity of her voicemail was breathtaking. She did not ask where I was. She did not ask why her son's marriage had dissolved overnight. Instead, her voice dripped with aristocratic disdain. Isabella, Cameron tells me you have emptied the house, ruining Trevor's special weekend with this dramatic, unclassy exit is exactly the kind of volatile behavior we have come to expect from you. We are trying to host an elegant event, and the catering company is claiming the final open bar balance has not cleared. Fix this immediately, and we can discuss your overreaction on Monday. I listened to the message twice, not out of hurt, but out of sheer fascination. It was a perfect case study in the illusion of power. Cynthia and Cameron operated with the towering arrogance of billionaires. They barked orders, demanded compliance, and dictated the terms of high society etiquette. But their authority was a ghost. It was a rented facade, completely subsidized by the very woman they were insulting. They truly believed their pedigree made them inherently superior, failing to realize that without my capital, their old money status was nothing but dust and unpaid bills. They had mistaken my continuous funding for their own leverage. They thought they were the board of directors reprimanding a rogue employee. They did not realize I owned the company. Then came Cameron's text messages. It was a rapid-fire sequence of panic disguised as authority. Stop acting like a paranoid child. You are embarrassing yourself. Transfer the venue funds. The coordinator is threatening to shut down the bar. Alexandra is asking where you are. Stop making things awkward. Their complete lack of remorse erased any lingering hesitation I might have had. They were not sorry for the betrayal. They were annoyed by the inconvenience of my boundary. I did not reply to the texts. I did not call Cynthia back to argue about class, respect, or my place in their family. Arguing is a negotiation, and I was no longer negotiating. I simply opened my banking application. With 3 deliberate clicks, I flagged the $45,000 gala catering charge as disputed and formally revoked the vendor authorization. Then, I systematically froze the 6 joint credit cards Cameron used to fund his daily life. I did not feel a surge of petty vindictiveness. This was not revenge. It was basic risk management. I was cutting off the line of credit to a hostile entity. I blocked Cameron's number. I blocked Cynthia's number. I blocked Trevor's number. The silence that followed in my apartment was not the silence of defeat. It was the quiet, efficient hum of a machine shifting into high gear. They wanted a drama-free weekend. I was about to give them a legally binding reality check. At 9 o'clock on Monday morning, I sat in the glass-walled conference room of my legal team's high-rise office in downtown Boston. The transition from the suffocating, antique-filled halls of Newport to this sleek, transparent environment was the exact breath of fresh air I needed. My lead attorney, Richard, slid a thick manila folder across the polished mahogany table. He had been my corporate counsel for 15 years, helping me navigate the cutthroat American technology sector. And he looked at me with a mixture of professional detachment and profound respect. The credit freezes held, Richard confirmed, tapping the folder. Cameron attempted to run the black card at a luxury car dealership yesterday afternoon. Declined. Cynthia tried to authorize a wire transfer to a private event coordinator using the joint account. Blocked. I took a sip of my black coffee. They were flailing. When a family built entirely on social perception suddenly loses its funding, the resulting panic is predictable. In psychology, this erratic reaction to losing control is known as a narcissistic injury. It occurs when individuals who project a facade of superiority are suddenly confronted with their own powerlessness, shattering their ego. My in-laws were currently suffering from the illusion of power of an empty wallet, a pathetic state where their perceived authority collapsed, the absolute second the actual capital disappeared. Have they retained counsel? I asked, my voice perfectly steady. They have, Richard replied, a faint, razor-sharp smile playing on his lips. A boutique firm out of Manhattan. They sent over a preliminary demand letter this morning. They are claiming you abandoned the marital home and are requesting immediate reinstatement of all credit lines to maintain the standard of living Cameron has grown accustomed to. They are also threatening to take this to the press to damage your company's reputation. I leaned back in my ergonomic leather chair. The sheer audacity was almost comical. As a woman who had spent her 40s breaking glass ceilings in the technology industry, I had faced down ruthless venture capitalists and hostile boardroom takeovers. Did Cameron honestly believe a spoiled heir with a suspended credit card could intimidate me? Let them go to the press, I said, my tone ice cold. If they want to publicly announce that a grown man requires his self-made wife to pay for his mother's cocktail parties, I welcome the headlines. The American media loves a story about a strong, independent woman cutting dead weight. It will only boost my company's stock. Richard chuckled, pulling out a fresh legal pad. I have already drafted the response. We are filing for divorce today on the grounds of irreconcilable differences, accompanied by a comprehensive financial audit of the last 4 years. We will outline exactly how much of your personal capital was siphoned to maintain his family's estate. But there is one more thing you need to see. He handed me a single sheet of paper. It was a bank record from a secondary account Cameron had secretly opened 6 months ago. During our preliminary asset sweep, we found this. Richard explained. Cameron used your forged signature to secure a collateralized loan against one of your minor holding companies. He did not use the funds for the estate, Isabella. He used them to fund a quiet, private life for someone else, a woman named Amanda. I stared at the name, Amanda, a perfectly common name, hiding a deeply unoriginal betrayal. There was no gasp, no shattering heartbreak. Instead, the final piece of the puzzle slid into place with a satisfying click. The financial drain, the gaslighting, the constant attempts to make me feel inadequate. It was not just old money snobbery. It was a calculated diversion. He committed financial fraud, I stated, the legal implications crystallizing in my mind. Felony fraud, Richard corrected softly. Which means we are no longer just negotiating a divorce settlement. We are dictating the absolute terms of his surrender. I looked out the window at the sprawling city skyline, feeling a profound, intoxicating sense of empowerment. I was not just going to take back my money, I was going to systematically, legally, and entirely dismantle the foundation of their entitlement. The story did not stay quiet for long. This escalating conflict quickly transformed into a media war, desperate to control the narrative and preserve her fragile social standing. Cynthia granted an exclusive video interview to a prominent East Coast society blog. She intended to paint me as a ruthless, uncultured corporate executive who maliciously bankrupted her historic family. We gave her the Newport name, Cynthia declared on camera, dabbing her perfectly dry eyes with a silk handkerchief. We accepted her despite her lack of pedigree. And how does she repay us? By freezing our accounts and forcing my son to take drastic, private financial measures just to survive her financial abuse. The interviewer, sensing the slip, pressed harder. Drastic measures. Mrs. Sterling, are you referring to the $350,000 fraudulent loan your son took against her company? Cynthia's aristocratic mask completely shattered. Her arrogance overrode whatever legal sense she possessed. It was not fraud, she snapped, her voice shrill and entirely unhinged. That money was his right as her husband. He needed it for Amanda, for his own peace of mind. Because Isabella was too focused on her spreadsheets to be a real wife. We earned that money by tolerating her. The clip hit the internet within an hour. It was the ultimate public self-destruction, where the audience could watch the villain dig their own grave. The old money matriarch fiercely defending her son's felony fraud and his mistress as an entitled right went viral instantly. The public backlash was immediate, brutal, and absolutely glorious. The legal proceedings were a mere formality after that. Cameron was indicted for felony wire fraud and forgery. Faced with a mountain of irrefutable digital evidence and his own mother's viral confession, he pled guilty to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. The ink on the final divorce decree dried faster than Cynthia's tears. The settlement orchestrated by my legal team was a masterpiece of absolute financial precision. The consequences for their fabricated dynasty were swift. The historic Newport estate, the very symbol of their supposed superiority, was seized and liquidated to cover the court-ordered restitution and mounting debts. Cynthia was forced to relocate to a modest, two-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood she had spent her entire life pretending did not exist. Without my capital to subsidize their aristocratic facade, she no longer had the means to rent her illusion of power. They had been stripped to their absolute foundation, and there was nothing left. I did not throw a party to celebrate their ruin. Standing in the ashes of their ego offered no genuine satisfaction. Instead, I took the recovered funds and established the Athena Initiative, a venture capital fund exclusively dedicated to backing female technology founders over the age of 45 who have been historically ignored by traditional investors. This is the essence of the justice of the planter. Punitive justice focuses entirely on the past and the destruction of those who wronged you, but the justice of the planter is the ultimate endgame. It shifts the focus toward building the future, transforming a personal betrayal into a legacy of creation. It is the ultimate act of retribution because it renders the cruelty of the perpetrators incredibly small and entirely meaningless. To the women watching this, especially those who have spent decades building empires, raising families, and swallowing your pride just to keep the peace, this is a letter to those of you who have always felt like you were on the margins of your own lives. You are not an endless line of credit. You are not a supporting character required to fund someone else's delusions of grandeur. If you find yourself at a table where your generosity is mistaken for weakness, and your success is used to subsidize your own disrespect, stand up. Cut the financial ties. The greatest act of self-preservation is realizing that the best revenge is not destroying their world. It is finally taking your power back and building your own. I read every single comment. Let me know your story down below.